I turned 29 2 Saturdays ago. The kind of age where birthdays stop being a big deal for most people. Unless you're married with a baby or getting divorced with a story. I'm neither. Just a guy named Caleb, single, financially comfortable, and, until recently, the designated responsible one in a family that never misses a chance to treat me like a bank with a heartbeat. I work in fintech. Nothing flashy. I'm not throwing stock tips around or posing next to Lumbos. But I make more than I spend, I save aggressively, and about a year ago, I moved into a loft with exposed brick and a rooftop view I still catch myself smiling at when I sip my coffee. My siblings and cousins still live around our old neighborhood. My sister, Nina, is the golden child. Always has been. She's 32, has 2 kids under 5, and no job since her 3rd round of finding herself began. But according to my mom, she's just going through a phase. Meanwhile, I've been so blessed that it's only right I help out more. Translation: every time someone needs meds, a car repair, or a little help with rent, it's me. Never mind that I haven't taken a real vacation in 3 years. I'm the successful one, right? For a long time, I didn't mind. I chalked it up to being the eldest son. Even though Nina's older, she doesn't do pressure, apparently. I just handled things. Uncle Joe needed a loan to fix his truck. I wired him $1,100. Grandma's prescriptions were racking up. I set up auto refill and had them delivered weekly. Nina needed diapers or groceries, just until next paycheck. I Venmo'd without asking questions. There were so many little ways I stepped up that I started losing track. My bank account didn't, though. And neither did they, not in gratitude, but in expectation. Anyway, I hadn't thrown myself a proper birthday since I turned 25. That one was at a bar downtown, and half the family bailed to attend Nina's surprise engagement dinner. To a guy she broke up with 2 months later. No warning, no apology. It was a timing thing, she said. Mom called it a misunderstanding. I called it a red flag, but I let it slide. I always let it slide. This year felt different. Not because I thought they'd magically respect me, but because I was tired. Tired of pretending like every little slight didn't sting. Tired of getting left out of group chats, only to be looped back in when someone needed help with GoFundMe links or back-to-school drives. So I decided to throw something low-key but nice, an adult kind of birthday. I rented out the rooftop lounge of my building, hired a private chef to do small plates, arranged for a bartender, and prepaid for open bar. I even got clever with the logistics. I emailed everyone customized Uber codes so no one had to worry about parking or driving. I made it foolproof, accessible, easy to show up. All they had to do was come. The invite went out 3 weeks in advance. I didn't do anything dramatic, just a group email with RSVP links, reminders a week out, and a pinned message in our family group chat. Nina never replied, but she left a thumbs up on the invite post. Mom said she was sure Nina would make it if she could find a sitter. Grandma said she was excited. Uncle Joe asked if there'd be ribs. All seemed well. I spent the day of the party running around like a man on a mission. Got a haircut. Picked up the cake myself. Red velvet from this boutique bakery uptown that cost more than it should have. Cleaned the lounge, even though the building provides staff. Set up a music playlist, curated just right. At 6:45 p.m., the lounge was glowing. Candles lit, bar stocked, appetizers lined up like art. The sun dipped behind the skyline and painted the buildings gold. I checked my phone, 7:02. The invite said 7 sharp. I figured people would trickle in. By 7:30, it was still just me and the bartender, who kept glancing at his phone like he didn't want to be there. I refreshed the group chat. No updates. No running late. Messages. Nothing. I texted my mom. Hey, are you guys close? No reply. I texted Grandma. No reply. I sat down, loosened my collar, tried not to spiral. Maybe traffic. Maybe the Uber codes glitched. Maybe someone got sick and they were all helping. I paced the rooftop and checked my phone every 3 minutes like a kid waiting for a birthday clown. Still nothing. At 8:10 p.m., my phone buzzed. It was a notification from Instagram. Livestream. Nina's game night. I stood there, blinking at the screen like it had personally slapped me. I clicked the live. My cousin Mariah was holding the phone, laughing, narrating the scene. Nina really did it, y'all. She surprised us with a full-blown game night. Look at this spread. She flipped the camera. My mom was on the couch, holding a mimosa. Uncle Joe was by the snack table, loading up on wings. My grandma, was in the corner with a party hat on, clapping along to some music. There was a cake. Not red velvet, but store-bought sheet cake that read, "Family Game Night Champs." I didn't comment. I didn't exit the stream right away either. I watched in silence, hearing my own heartbeat louder than the music. The hurt crawled up my spine like a fever, slow and searing. They didn't forget. They just chose something else. Something with Nina. Again. At 8:23 p.m., I locked my phone, nodded once to the bartender, and said, "We can wrap this up." He raised his eyebrows, but said nothing. I boxed the untouched cake myself, left all the untouched food behind, and rode the elevator down with that hollow feeling that doesn't hit all at once, but leaks in like a bad roof. My apartment was too quiet, too clean. I sat on the edge of my bed, cake in my lap, Uber receipts open on my screen. The silence wasn't peaceful. It was shame. Then I opened my banking app. Not out of impulse. Out of clarity. Cold, surgical clarity. I went into every recurring payment I'd been covering for the past 3 years. Grandma's meds? Canceled. Uncle Joe's truck loan auto-pay? Disconnected. Nina's kids' Amazon wishlist auto-scheduler? Gone. I didn't send a warning. I didn't send a single message. I didn't even delete myself from the family chat. I just unplugged. Quietly. Thoroughly. By morning, my voicemail was full. I didn't hit play on a single one. And that is when things really started to unravel. I ignored the first 2 days of calls. At first, it was easy. I turned off notifications, flipped my phone face down on the kitchen counter, and dove into work like I was trying to outrun the anger simmering beneath my skin. But it wasn't just anger. It was a strange cocktail of emotions, humiliation, betrayal, even guilt. I knew what I did wasn't cruel. It wasn't even loud. But it was decisive. And when you're the one everyone leans on, your silence becomes louder than anything you could say. By Wednesday, the texts started morphing. At first it was, "Are you okay? And we're worried about you." Then came the guilt taps. "Grandma says her pills haven't arrived." "Uncle Joe got a late fee from the bank." "Nina's kids are still waiting for the school shoes you promised." I hadn't promised anything, but that didn't matter. The moment I stopped being convenient, I became selfish. The family group chat lit up like a Christmas tree. Messages pinged in quick succession. "Mom. Caleb, I'm trying to be patient here. I know you're hurt, but this isn't the way to handle it." "Nina, you're literally punishing Grandma over a party? Grow up." "Mariah, cousin, I think you're being kind of dramatic. No one meant to hurt you." There was no apology. No acknowledgement that I spent $2,000 to celebrate a birthday no one showed up to. No mention of the game night live stream. It was like that part didn't exist. Like I was just being sensitive. I didn't reply. I couldn't. Every time I opened the chat and saw their names, it felt like reopening a wound that hadn't even begun to scab. Then Friday came, and with it, the tipping point. I was working from home, half distracted by a quarterly review call, when my phone buzzed with a message from my building's concierge. "Visitor, Nina, no appointment. Shall I allow access?" I froze. Before I could decide, another text arrived. "Never mind. She's already on her way up." And just like that, the elevator dinged. I didn't have time to put on shoes or even change out of the hoodie I'd been wearing for 2 days. I opened the door to find Nina standing there, arms crossed, a scowl on her face, and 2 toddlers wobbling behind her, one of them holding an empty juice box. "Nice place," she said, stepping in without waiting for an invitation. "Guess this is where all the family help money goes." I didn't respond. I just looked at her. She wore leggings, a baggy tee, and the same smug expression she'd had since high school when she used to blame me for taking the last Pop-Tart, even if she ate both herself. "You've been ignoring us," she added, brushing past me and plopping down on the couch like it was hers. "Grandma's crying every night. Mom can't sleep. Uncle Joe's in a mood. And all because what? We didn't show up to your overpriced rooftop party." Her tone made it sound like I'd invited them to a corporate fundraiser instead of my own birthday. "You lied," I said quietly, still standing in the doorway. "You said you'd try to make it. Instead, you threw your own thing and didn't tell anyone I had something planned." "I saw the stream, Nina. You didn't forget. You chose." She rolled her eyes. "Oh, come on. That wasn't even a real party. Just some games and takeout. I didn't think it would be a big deal." "It wasn't the party," I said. "It was the message. That I don't matter. That I'm an afterthought." Again, she leaned back and scoffed. "You're being dramatic. You've always been so emotional. You act like this family owes you something just because you have money. Well, maybe we're tired of being treated like your charity cases. I took a slow breath. My heart was pounding, but I kept my voice steady. I never treated anyone like charity. I helped because I thought that's what family did. But you, all of you took advantage of it. And now that I've stopped, suddenly I'm the bad guy. She stood up and snapped. You don't get it. We're all struggling. We have kids. Jobs are unstable. You don't know what it's like. You're right, I said. I don't have kids. I don't have a spouse. I have exactly one person who looks out for me. And I've still managed to do more for this family than everyone else combined. Her face flushed red. One of the kids tugged on her sleeve, murmuring something about being hungry. She ignored him. So what? She shot back. You're gonna cut everyone off now? Let Grandma go without meds? Let Uncle Joe lose his truck? You think that makes you noble? I didn't answer. I just stepped aside and motioned toward the door. She stared at me for a long beat like she couldn't believe I wasn't backing down. Then she grabbed her kid's hands and stormed out. You've changed, she said over her shoulder. And not in a good way. When the door shut, I sank onto the couch, numb. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just sat there, the echo of her words still ringing in my head. You've changed. Yeah, maybe I had. Maybe for the first time, I was choosing me. But the fallout hadn't even started yet. That night, I got a call from my mother. I didn't pick up, but she called again. Then again. Finally, I answered, not because I wanted to talk, but because I knew if I didn't, she'd just keep escalating. That's how she works. Caleb, she began, tone tight. I heard Nina came by. She's very upset. Yeah, I said flatly. She made that clear. You shouldn't have spoken to her like that, my mom snapped. She's your sister. And I'm your son, I said. But that hasn't stopped you from making excuses for her every time she screws me over. There was a pause on the line. Then, in that disappointed mom voice she had perfected over the years, she said, This isn't who you are. No, Mom, I said, calmer than I felt. This is exactly who I am. I've just stopped pretending to be okay with being walked over. You've always been the strong one, Caleb. The dependable one. That's not strength. That's silence. And it's cost me more than you know. She exhaled sharply. Fine, if that's how you want to be. But don't come crying to us when you're alone someday and need your family. Then she hung up. It was subtle, but that was the moment. The exact second I realized the only value I held in this family was what I could give. The minute I stopped giving, I became disposable. The next few days were quiet. Too quiet. No texts. No calls. Not even a passive-aggressive meme in the group chat. Just radio silence. Until the following Sunday morning, when I got a calendar invite. It was titled, Family Brunch, Sunday at Mom's, 11 a.m. Location, my mother's house. Guests, everyone except me. I stared at it for a long time, thumb hovering over the decline button. Then I noticed something strange. Under notes, someone had typed, We'll talk about Caleb's behavior. I blinked. I read it again. They were having a meeting about me. Like I was a child who had misbehaved. Like my boundary was a tantrum they needed to fix. I didn't decline. I didn't respond at all. But something inside me cracked. This wasn't just about a missed birthday anymore. This was about control. About the family's unspoken rule, Caleb gives. Caleb carries. Caleb doesn't complain. And the second he stops, he's the problem. They thought I'd come crawling back. That I'd apologize, maybe offer to pay for brunch to make it up to everyone. They didn't understand that something had shifted. That I was done playing the role they wrote for me. But they were about to. Because I had been quiet for too long. And I was finally ready to speak. Just not in the way they expected. I didn't go to brunch. I didn't even pretend to consider it. I spent that Sunday morning in silence, watching the city move through my living room window. The streets buzzed with people heading to parks, brunch spots, church, wherever. It was just another morning to them. But for me, it was the first time in my life I felt completely unanchored. Detached from the people who were supposed to be my roots. The truth is, I expected to feel empowered. I'd drawn a line, held my ground, said no for once. But what I actually felt was hollow. Like I'd stepped out of my body and was watching someone else live a life I didn't recognize. I kept thinking, was I wrong? Did I overreact? That's the trap, right? When you've been gaslit for years, standing up for yourself feels like guilt. That night, I opened my voicemail for the first time. 28 unheard messages. I didn't plan to listen to them. I just did. One by one. At first, they were the same predictable mix: disappointment, manipulation, silent treatment threats. Nina's voice came up more than once, always a little too loud, too sure. One message had her snapping. "You made your point, okay? You're upset. We get it. Can you stop acting like you're the only one who matters?" But one voicemail stood out. It was from Grandma. Her voice was softer than I remembered. Slower. "Hi, sweetheart. I don't know what's going on exactly. I just know something's broken between you and everyone, and I don't like it. You've always done right by us. And maybe that's the problem. You did too much. I don't have much to give, but I want you to know. I see you. And I'm sorry I didn't say that sooner. I love you." That one cracked something in me. I sat in my kitchen with my phone in one hand and my forehead pressed against the cold wood of the table. I didn't cry. I didn't say anything. But that voicemail became a pivot point. The others had pushed me away. That one pulled me inward. It reminded me of who I'd been. Not the giver or the fixer, but the person behind all that. Caleb. A son. A grandson. A man trying to belong in a family that only loved the version of him that served them. The next few weeks were quiet. No messages. No pop-ins. No brunch invites. They'd given up trying to pull me back, and in their silence, I found something strange: peace. Lonely, sure, but peaceful. It was the first time in years I didn't feel tethered to other people's crises. I stopped checking the family group chat altogether. Muted it. I stopped checking their Instagram stories. Stopped scrolling through Facebook photos, searching for captions that hinted at passive-aggressive digs. I started walking more. Reading again. I even went to a museum alone on a Tuesday. Just wandered through silent halls of oil paintings and sculptures, wondering how long it had been since I did something just because I wanted to. I also started journaling. That might sound soft, but it helped. I needed a space where I could put things that had no place anywhere else. The guilt, the anger, the memories. I wrote about my 18th birthday, when I gave my cake slice to Nina's then-boyfriend because we ran out. I wrote about the time Mom used my college fund to help Nina with her wedding deposit, the wedding that never happened. I wrote about the day Uncle Joe asked me for just a little help, and how that little help turned into monthly transfers that silently siphoned away my savings. It all came pouring out, like I was wringing myself dry. And somewhere in the middle of all that, something shifted. I started thinking less about what I'd lost and more about what I'd never actually had: respect. From them, from myself. I had spent my entire adult life trying to earn love through usefulness. I was the emergency contact, the ATM, the ride home, the one who always figures it out. But I didn't want to be a utility anymore. I wanted to be a person. Around that time, something unexpected happened. My boss called me into a meeting. Not a performance review. A project pitch. They wanted me to lead an experimental branch of the company, a small team developing financial literacy tools for underserved communities. It would mean a promotion, a lot more work, some travel, but it also meant autonomy, purpose, and a $30,000 raise. I said yes. For the first time in years, I felt like I was building something that mattered. Not because it was for someone else. Not because it proved I was a good son or a good cousin. Just because it aligned with who I was and what I believed in. That feeling of being in control of my own time, my own values. It was like learning to breathe with your full lungs after years of shallow inhales. Of course, my family didn't know. They didn't ask. They never did. But people outside my family did. Old college friends I hadn't spoken to in years started messaging me after seeing a LinkedIn post about the project. A woman I once dated, briefly, awkwardly, reached out and asked if I'd be open to grabbing coffee. My social circle slowly began to widen, not out of effort, but alignment. I didn't have to perform for anyone anymore. I was just me. One night, maybe a month after the brunch incident, I was walking home from work, earbuds in, when I got a text from Grandma. It was a photo. She was holding a bouquet of sunflowers, my favorite. No caption, just a picture of her smiling in her kitchen, a hint of mischief in her eyes like she knew I'd soften. I texted back, "You always know what to say without saying it." She replied, "Come visit soon. Just you and me. No games." So I did. That Sunday, I drove to her place. She made tea, sat me down, and patted my hand like I was still 6 years old and scraped my knee. We didn't talk about Nina, or Mom, or the brunch. She just told me about her garden, her neighbor's yappy dog, a new church group she'd joined. It wasn't until I was about to leave that she said something that stuck. "You know, she began, stirring her tea absently. Sometimes families confuse love with dependency. They think needing you is the same as cherishing you. It's not. One drains, the other fills. I just nodded. She reached into a drawer and handed me a little envelope. I've been setting aside some money. For a trip, maybe. You should take one. Go somewhere they can't reach you for a while. Inside was a check for $1,000. I didn't want to take it. I tried to hand it back, but she closed my hand around it and said, "Don't argue with an old woman who finally sees things clearly." I hugged her for longer than I planned to. That week, I booked a flight. Not to some luxury resort. Just a quiet cabin in Vermont. Wi-Fi optional. I brought books, hiking boots, and my journal. I watched the leaves change colors. I breathed air that didn't smell like traffic. I ate meals I cooked myself. And I realized something else. I didn't miss them. I missed what I hoped they'd be, but not what they were. When I got back, I felt lighter, calmer. But the storm hadn't passed. Not entirely. Because while I was rebuilding, quietly and privately, the family had been spiraling. I didn't know it yet, but my silence, my distance, had started causing cracks in their own dynamic. Financial ones. Emotional ones. Nina had asked Uncle Joe for help with bills, but he'd been stretched thin ever since I stopped subsidizing his truck payments. Mom had leaned on Mariah for Grandma's meds, but Mariah, freshly engaged, was saving for a wedding. The safety net I'd quietly stitched over the years had unraveled. And without it, they were scrambling. It wasn't out of cruelty. I didn't do it to watch them suffer. But suffering has a way of forcing people to confront truths they've been avoiding. And apparently, mine wasn't the only mask slipping. Because one day, just as I was getting ready to leave work, I got a text from Mariah. "You need to see this. Check Nina's story." I clicked. It was a video. Nina, sitting in her living room, tear-streaked and shaking with rage. A toddler crying in the background. Her voice trembling with fury. "I'm done protecting people," she said into the camera. "You think you know someone your whole life, and then they just vanish when you need them the most. Family's supposed to be ride or die, not run and hide. And Caleb, if you're watching this, congratulations. You've made it clear what you really care about. And guess what? We don't need you. We never did." The video cut off, but the comments kept coming. So did the DMs. So did the screenshots from extended relatives, aunts, second cousins, even family friends, all tagging me or messaging me with a variation of the same question. "What did you do?" That's when I knew. The final act was beginning. And this time, I wasn't going to stay quiet. I didn't respond to Nina's story. I didn't post a counter video, didn't reply to the tags, didn't even open the comments. But the second I saw her tear-streaked face on my screen, her voice cracking in that rehearsed kind of way that only people who want to be victims can pull off, something settled in my chest. Not rage. Not sadness. Something colder. Resolve. I wasn't going to play defense anymore. I'd spent my entire life swallowing slights, smoothing over tension, bailing people out of messes they walked into with their eyes wide open. I played the peacemaker, the fixer, the one who kept the family glued together with polite smiles and PayPal transfers. And now they had the audacity to paint me as the villain? Me? No. I'd let them have their story. Now it was time I told mine. But I wasn't going to blast them online or rant in Facebook comments. That's not my style. Emotional revenge is satisfying in the moment, but financial, structural revenge, that stays with people. So I started planning. The first thing I did was finally open a spreadsheet I'd started over a year ago. I called it contributions. It was something I'd begun half as a joke, half as a coping mechanism, a line-by-line record of every time I'd helped out a family member since I graduated college. Over the years, I'd added to it when things got especially bad, but I'd never finished it. Until now. It took me 2 nights. I went back through Venmo history, PayPal logs, old text threads, even emails. I wasn't obsessive, I was meticulous. Every grocery run I'd covered for Nina. Every temporary loan to Uncle Joe. Every Target order I placed for Grandma's prescriptions. Every time I'd thrown down my credit card for an Uber home, a birthday dinner, a school fundraiser. It was all there. Every date. Every dollar. When I was done, the final number stared back at me. $47,380.22. 47 grand. That was more than my down payment on my loft. More than my car. More than any vacation I'd ever taken. And it wasn't even including the Rooftop birthday party. That was just help. I sat with that number for a long time. Not because I wanted it back. I didn't. Not really. But I needed to see it. I needed them to see it. The next phase was delicate. I started gathering receipts, not just financial ones, but emotional. Screenshots, messages, voicemails. I didn't need to fabricate anything. I just needed to compile the truth. One cousin had once texted me, "You're the only reason I can afford gas this month." Another, "Don't tell Nina I asked you. She gets weird when people come to you first." I had group chat screenshots where they openly joked about how easy it was to get money out of me. A message from my mom, sent last Christmas. "I know you already gave $300, but your sister's having a hard time. Maybe just a little more?" I didn't respond then. Now, I saved it to a folder. I titled the folder, "When They Ask Why." But revenge isn't just about what you show. It's about when you show it. I had to wait for the right moment. That came 2 weeks later. My mom was hosting her annual Thanksgiving dinner. It had been a tradition since we were kids. Potluck style, always at her house, always loud, chaotic, and deeply uncomfortable. In years past, I'd always brought the expensive stuff, wine, desserts, sometimes even the turkey if money was tight for everyone else. This year, I hadn't been invited. Not directly, anyway. I saw the event posted in our extended family group on Facebook. My name wasn't tagged. The caption read, "Everyone's welcome. Just bring a dish and good vibes." Classic passive-aggressive outreach. Ignore me all month, then pretend nothing's wrong when a holiday rolls around. I wasn't going to go, but then I got a text from Mariah. "Mariah, FY. I overheard Nina talking. She's planning to announce something big at Thanksgiving. Wants to make it about her. I think she's going to spin the whole Caleb thing again." I waited a moment before responding. "Me, let her." "Mariah, you sure?" "Me, I'll be there." "Mariah, you want backup?" I thought about it. Mariah had been the only one to reach out with genuine concern since everything went down. She wasn't perfect. She definitely laughed at a few of those memes at my expense, but she'd also started pulling away from the group dynamic. She'd gotten engaged recently to a guy who had boundaries, which probably had a lot to do with it. "Me, if you bring dessert, I'll let you sit at my table." "Mariah, you bringing the wine?" "Me, oh, I'm bringing everything." Thanksgiving Day arrived, and I dressed for war. Not in a flashy way, no designer labels or over-the-top outfits. Just a crisp black button-up, fitted jeans, and clean boots. I looked sharp, unbothered, like someone who had finally stopped apologizing for existing. When I pulled up to my mom's house, the driveway was full. The street was lined with sedans and minivans. Laughter and music poured from the windows. I stepped inside. Heads turned. The room went still for half a second, like everyone had forgotten what I looked like. Then came the smiles, the awkward hugs, the forced cheer. "Caleb, you made it. Didn't think we'd see you this year. Look who finally came down from his penthouse." I smiled, nodded, didn't give them more than they gave me. The house smelled like cinnamon, fried onions, and whatever brand of perfume my mom still wore from 1998. The table was covered in casseroles, foil trays, plastic utensils. Nina was already holding court in the living room, her kids running wild at her feet. She saw me and stiffened, then smiled. "Oh, look who decided to show up," she said loudly. "Must be nice to take a break from being the martyr." A few people chuckled. I didn't flinch. I just smiled and said, "Didn't want to miss your big announcement." She blinked. "What announcement?" I turned to the room. "Actually, before we eat, I have something I'd like to share." Everyone froze. It was the tone, I think. Calm. Serious. Like I wasn't asking. "Don't worry," I added. "It's not a speech. Just some photos." I reached into my coat pocket and pulled out a small stack of manila envelopes. I'd made 20 copies, enough for everyone. I handed them out one by one, ignoring the puzzled looks. "What's this?" Uncle Joe asked. "Just a little Thanksgiving gratitude," I said. Inside each envelope was a printed summary of my spreadsheet. One sheet with dates, amounts, and recipients. Nothing cruel, just facts. Underneath that, I'd printed the messages, the screenshots, the texts, the voicemails, all neatly organized. And on the last page, a simple note. "I don't need thanks. I just need you to stop pretending I never gave anything." The room was dead silent. Paper rustled. No one looked up. Nina was the first to speak. "You seriously made, like, a report card of everything you've done for the family? That's so petty." I turned to her, still calm. You made a live video accusing me of abandoning you. You've told everyone I vanished when you needed me. This isn't petty. It's proof. I kept receipts while you kept rewriting history. Mom finally stepped in. Caleb, this isn't the place. I turned to her, and for once, I let the edge into my voice. No, Mom. This is exactly the place. Because for years, I gave without expecting anything. I showed up. I paid. I carried everyone. And when I stopped, just once, you all made me out to be the bad guy. So no, we're not sweeping this one under the rug. She didn't respond. No one did. They just sat there, holding the truth in their hands like it was radioactive. And that was fine, because this wasn't the revenge. This was just the setup. The real move? That would come when I showed them what life looked like without me in their corner. Not with silence, but with success. And I was just getting started. Thanksgiving ended in silence. Not the good kind. Not peaceful or content. The awkward kind. The kind that sucks all the air out of a room. People ate in near silence that night, shuffling turkey around their plates while pretending not to glance at the manila folders tucked under the pie trays and casserole dishes. No one said much to me after my presentation, and I didn't stick around to force small talk. I left with Mariah, who gave me a quiet nod as we walked to our cars. I didn't need applause. I didn't need tears. That was never the point. The truth was out. And now, it was time for the consequences. See, the thing about people like Nina, like my mom, like Uncle Joe, they build their entire identity on two fragile pillars, entitlement and reputation. They rely on others to fill their needs, and they rely on public image to justify it. They need to be seen as the struggling single mom, the selfless matriarch, the good uncle who just hit a rough patch. And I just cracked both pillars in one night. But the collapse? That would happen slowly. And perfectly. The first ripple hit the following Monday. I got a LinkedIn message from a recruiter I didn't know, connected to someone I did know. My cousin Ryan, a former co-worker of Nina's who had landed her a part-time admin job 6 months ago at a real estate firm. The recruiter's message was short. Hey Caleb, quick question. You're related to Nina S., right? Something came up during her probation review. Would you be open to a quick call? I stared at the message, fingers hovering over the keyboard. I didn't respond right away. Instead, I took a breath and wrote, happy to chat. I'll keep it professional. We spoke that afternoon. Turns out Nina had used me as a reference when applying. Not in the traditional sense, not with permission, but she'd told them I was her cousin and CFO of a finance company, false, who could vouch for her integrity and financial management skills, ironic. She'd even name-dropped me in her onboarding interviews, claiming I taught her how to manage logistics for large-scale events, citing a completely made-up role she claimed she had in one of my side projects. I kept my voice calm. I won't speak to her character, I said, but I can confirm she had no role in any business operations I've led, and I would prefer not to be used as a professional reference going forward. The recruiter side, that's all I needed to hear. Appreciate the clarity. I didn't ask what happened next. I didn't need to. But a week later, Nina posted a cryptic story, a black screen with white text that read, some people would rather see you fail than let you grow. Watch who you trust. No job title in her bio anymore. No #bossmom, hashtags either. That was just the beginning. Next came Uncle Joe. He texted me out of the blue, not to apologize, of course, but to check in. Asked how I'd been. Dropped a few vague sentences about family being messy and not letting stuff fester. Then he said something that gave him away. If you ever need help with that property of yours, I've still got tools and a truck. The truck. The one I'd helped him keep afloat for nearly 2 years. I waited a few days, then messaged him back. Hope the truck's running well. Out of curiosity, what happened with the payments after I disconnected the auto transfer? He didn't respond for 3 days. Then I got a voicemail. He sounded tired. Less angry than deflated. Look, Caleb, I'm not gonna lie to you. I fell behind. Got a few notices from the bank. Thought maybe you'd jump back in if you saw me struggling again. But I get it now. You're done helping. Just wish you'd given us a warning. I didn't call back. Instead, I checked the public auction site for repossessed vehicles. A week later, I saw it. His 2014 Dodge Ram, listed for bidding. Starting price, $3,500. I didn't bid, but someone did. Fallout kept trickling in like water through cracked glass. I learned from Mariah that Mom had started leaning on her more, especially for rides and grocery runs. At first, Mariah caved. Guilt's a hard addiction to break. But eventually she texted me. Is this what it's like for you all the time? I replied, welcome to the club. But the final piece of the revenge wasn't about money, or silence, or petty power moves. It was about reclaiming my identity on my terms. So I decided to write a letter. Not an email, not a ranty Facebook post. A physical letter, printed and mailed, one copy each to every person who received a manila envelope on Thanksgiving. I used thick cardstock, typed in clear black font, signed every copy in ink. No drama, no guilt tripping, just clarity. Here's what it said. Dear family, thank you for taking the time to read what I shared with you on Thanksgiving. I know it was uncomfortable. That was the point. For years, I gave without asking. I contributed, I supported, I showed up. And when I finally stepped back, many of you called me selfish, dramatic, or cruel. You have every right to your opinions. But I have a right to boundaries. This isn't about repayment. I'm not asking for money back. I'm not asking for praise or apologies. I'm asking for acknowledgement of what I gave, of how I was treated, and of the fact that moving forward, I choose myself. I won't be attending family events where I'm expected to play the provider. I won't be participating in group chats that become complaint sessions or donation drives. I won't be covering bills, birthday gifts, or surprise emergencies. This doesn't mean I don't love you. It means I love myself, too. If you're willing to build a relationship with me that's rooted in respect, not expectation, my door is open. If not, I wish you peace anyway. Sincerely, Caleb. Mariah messaged me a week later. I got your letter. I cried. Thank you. One of my aunts emailed me, too. Quietly. Said she admired the honesty. Said it made her realize how often women in the family are expected to give in silence, too. Even Grandma called me. Proud of you, baby, she said. Sometimes people only change when they have no choice. You gave them one. As for the rest, they stayed quiet. The group chat died. No one posted happy birthday on my timeline the next year. No angry rants. No guilt. Just silence. And it was beautiful, because in that silence, I finally found something I'd been chasing my entire life. Peace that didn't depend on approval. I took a trip to Portugal. Just me, my camera, and a journal. I sat in cafes, walked along the coastline, wrote stories, drank wine. No one called asking for money. No one interrupted my sunsets with emergencies. And for once, I wasn't thinking about who I needed to be to earn love. I was just living. The best revenge, I realized, isn't making them hurt. It's showing them they never broke you. It's living better, not louder. And that's exactly what I did. They thought losing me would teach me a lesson, but all it did was finally set me free.